Alright, today I'm going to be working on mounting this old axe head to this new axe handle. I bought this axe, I don't know, 2-3 years ago at an old antique store that had been shut down and all the stuff was still in it. I think she did a video on it. I just never really did anything with it, and I happened to see it the other day, and I need a splitting axe, or a better splitting axe than what I've got. So I thought I would try to get this thing going like I want it to. The old handle that was in this one was no good. This thing was new and it never sold, but it sat in that old building for years and years and years, and the handle was just bad in it. And what this is an old council tool rail splitter. I don't know that if it's so much meant to be a splitting axe or not, but it's got a good enough profile that it will split. It's thick enough, I think. So in any case, I'm going to work on mounting it on this handle, and then I'll put it to use and try it and see if it is. It semi fits this thing, but I'm gonna have to do some trimming and some sanding. I'm gonna sand all the varnish off this thing. They come with varnish on them now all the time, and I don't like that, so I'm gonna sand it off, and then in the end I'll sand it nice and smooth, and then soak it and probably boil linseed oil or something to preserve the handle. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. So now I think I've got this thing close to where it'll fit. I believe I can drive it on there and then put the wedge in and all that. But before I do that, I'm going to sand all this varnish off. I don't know when this became a thing, but I'm not a fan of varnish on a wood handle. It'll blister your hands if you use it a whole lot, which I will be using it a whole lot. So I always like to sand all this varnish off and then put several coats of, something like boiled linseed oil or mineral oil or something on it and let it soak into the wood, and that'll help protect and preserve it. I'm just not a fan of this varnish, so I'm gonna try to get it sanded off, and then I'll go ahead and mount the head, or hopefully mount the head. I ain't done this in a long time. It's been about 10 years or so since I've done this, so hopefully it'll all go well, but first I'm gonna get this stuff off. All right, I think we're ready to put this thing on. I think it's about as close a fit as I'm gonna get, and I'm not any expert at this at all, but we're gonna see how it goes. Well, that's about as good as it's going to get, I reckon. So now, what we'll do is get the wedge ready to put in. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that before I drive it in, just to be sure it wants to hold itself. right, that ain't too bad. It turned out halfway decent. You can see I like to leave them a little bit proud, leave them sticking out. So I'm going to leave that much length sticking out of it. And the wedge literally went all the way in. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you got to leave them, they'll just go so far and then you've got to saw it off. But that one went all the way. And I'm just going to leave it that much proud and let that glue dry. It's actually Gorilla Glue, so it'll probably foam just a little, but I'll trim that off. And I'm gonna do some more sanding on this thing, and then I'm gonna put a little oil on it, and then I'll do a little bit of sharpening on the bit there, and it should be ready. What I'm gonna do now is wipe it down with some mineral spirits and get the dust and the oil from my hands off of it, and let that dry. It'll evaporate pretty quick. And then I'm gonna put some boiled linseed oil on it, and then it'll take several coats of that. And then I'll sharpen it a little, clean the head up just a little, and it'll be ready to use. All right, now we're gonna put a little boiled linseed oil on this handle. I'll get that soaking good and rubbed in good, and it'll probably take several coats, but I'll get that on there and let it begin to dry. So there that thing is. It's all hung and hafted and sanded and oiled. And the only thing left to do, I'll touch that edge up. And another thing I'll do, I'm going to give this glue time to dry, is I'll put this thing, mount this thing back in the vise vertically, and then I'll coat this whole top several times with that same boiled linseed oil, and it'll suck that into the grain and help keep that end preserved as well, and keep the wood, help keep it preserved. It turned out pretty fair for somebody that ain't done this in a long time. Never did do it much, but it fit good. It filled up all the gaps, and yeah, it worked out real good, and I think it'll work fine. So you can be on the lookout in future videos when we're splitting wood. I will be using this. I think it's cool to find something like this in an old old building somewhere that's just been sitting for years and years and years and not used, and it never was used. It's new. They never sold it. But to give it, get it out of there and give it new life, and I am somebody that will put it to use, and it's an old head from back in the day, and I just think that's pretty cool. I'd a whole lot rather have old stuff, you know, old stuff made in the past as buying the new stuff. So, and I especially like, you know, putting my own little signature on it by hanging the handle myself, and it wasn't pressed in with a machine. And I actually, you know, this is a halfway decent handle. It's a hardware store handle, but I did pick it out, and it's got real good grain in it. I don't know if you can see that or how well it focused, but the grain is really good and vertical in it. So it should be a good stout handle. There's no checks on it, no knots in it. So the only drawback to it is it is a little big, a little fat, but that'd be all right. I'll be able to use it, and should be able to use it for many years to come. So be on the lookout for some future videos. You'll get to see this thing in use. And as always, we hope you stop back by often to help us celebrate Appalachia.